Are you wasting a lot of your day? Well, today's Blunt Force Business is about making the most of your day with creating operational consistency. So if you like what you see, drop a like, leave us a comment, and subscribe to get more videos like this going forward. All right, welcome back to Blunt Force Business. I'm Brian LaFauci.
And I'm Patrick Marino.
And today we got a good one for them.
Oh, good.
I think so.
I don't like it when we don't have a good one.
Other than the other ones that sucked. This
this
is
is
going to
the
be
good one.
fantastic, right? Delete all previous, jump into this one,
Exactly.
which is good.
Or if you're watching one of the other ones, you're like, this wasn't that good.
Right.
Find this one.
Right. Perfect. So today we're going to talk about making the most of your day. We got 3 really good blunt force facts for you about how to optimize your day, right? So, you know, that's vague, right? So we're going to start a little vague with making the most of your day. That means, like, do I get up, have a good breakfast? Are we talking, right, like elementary school, make the most of your day, or make the most of your business day?
Be a positive person.
Yes, be a good,
Right.
I would
out
say,
in the world.
I would say that we do try to promote being a positive person out in the world.
Yeah, I agree with that.
As much as possible. Some people test your ability to be a positive person.
I'm working on being less cynical.
Really?
Yes, definitely a personal goal.
Okay.
Be less cynical. So I want to make the most of other people's days as
Good
well.
luck with that. Seeing the
That was very
cynicism. See how I
cynical.
did that? I did
Very
that with the
cynical.
cynicism.
I don't feel as good. I don't feel like you're making the most out of my day.
Let's make the most of their day right now.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Yep.
So we're going to talk about operational stuff today.
Okay.
Okay. Today is very much based on how you set up yourself and your day, and we can take that and say your day, your week, everything, so that you are making sure that we are putting in what I like to call the McDonald's approach, which is horrible food, by the way. Don't eat McDonald's, kids. It's bad for you. We're going to get
McDonald's
sued.
is doing
I think we're
well
going to get
right
sued
now.
on that
I think
one.
McDonald's is doing well. I think it's just fine.
They did. They changed around a
Yeah,
little
I
bit.
think
But
they did.
the McDonald's approach, and we can relate to that with Dunkin' Donuts approach as New Englanders. We love our Dunkin' Donuts, where, you know, the reality is that you go to one in your town or you go down the street to one and it is the same, right? You know, it's the ability for whoever that employee is there can step in and provide you with the same coffee that tastes the same. That bagel's going to be toasted almost the same each time, you know, and same. It's consistency.
Right.
And so we need to create consistency for a small business standpoint for ourselves, but then as we scale, it becomes extra important for us to create that consistency so the people we bring on board are doing the exact same shit that we would do in the same way we want to doing and focusing on like what our better is. So that brings us to how do we get there to our first blunt force factor today, Patrick, which is what?
Our first blunt force fact is put it on paper. What does that mean? It's on paper.
It is on paper. See, we did put it on paper.
So we're already making the most out of our day.
Yeah, we make the most of this video by putting it on paper.
It's not a blunt force fact because we're just making it up.
Right.
This is the blunt force fact.
We practice what
Put
we
it
preach.
on paper. We live it to lead it.
So what that means for me is in every aspect of my company, whether it be the marketing or the finance or the day-to-day operations or the sales cycle, I have a checklist. I'm a huge checklist guy, right? To the point of some might say it's a little over the top, but the benefit to me of creating checklists is it's the starting point of consistency in your business. So what I do with my checklists, and I'm sure you have some of your own, is
to be fair,
Yes.
I'm a little bit more fly by the seat of my pants.
Little more
Not in a good way.
little-
I probably should get better at
Well, you
this.
can watch this video.
So this is good.
Yeah.
This is good for me.
That's why we work well together.
Yep.
So to me, the importance of the checklist is there are so many aspects of what you're trying to create in your company. And there are so many nuances of what you're trying to create that without a checklist, I would miss so many important things. So we could talk the marketing checklist that I use right now because we could do it for any one of them. But every month, at the beginning of the month, there are certain key activities that I want to make sure that happen. And those have come from my strategic planning of what do I want my outreach to be to my clients, right? So every month for me, it is, I want to make sure that I write a couple blogs for the month on whatever the topic is or focus is going to be for that month. And then from there, I want to ensure that my social media presence continues throughout the month. And on top of that, I want to ensure that I maybe have 1 or 2 email marketing campaigns that month. So we could go on and on down that checklist. But these are all things that have come about over time from me having like pretty much the good idea fairy, right? You know, you ever been in the car? You're driving.
I'm in the car a lot.
Right. And you know I'm in the car a lot because you get that message
Yeah,
that
I know.
says I'm driving.
Whenever I text them, it comes back and saying, I'm driving. Like, you're
yes.
always driving.
Safety first. I got my daughter who is 16 now and is about to get behind the wheel.
Yeah.
And I'm really trying to
Nerve-wracking.
model.
Yeah.
Trying to model with that.
Yeah,
So
I'm always scared of that. My kids are way better at that than I am.
Yeah.
Which is important.
So when we go to this, like,
Do what I say, not what I do.
right, exactly.
Which we're not. That's not the type of business owner.
We're doing what we said.
We're doing what we say.
Exactly. And so I have, you might have these moments where you grab something that you really want to, or you do something that you really liked. I'm like, that went really well. And then the day-to-day operations of a business can make that very easy to kind of float away. And how many times have we said to ourselves, man, I forgot that. I was doing that. I forgot to stay on
Well, if we're
that.
talking about personal stuff, I mean, like I've definitely been in that situation. Like with my own business, I got so busy doing the business of other people that I stopped marketing myself. And then I had a couple of issues, not just losing clients over the natural course of client turnover, but then also like my personal website went down and I had my eye completely off the ball.
Right.
Right. So like that was a big thing I needed to address that I never addressed. Checking in on my own stuff.
Right.
Versus like what I was doing for my clients.
Right. And it's easy for that, and you might listen to this video and say, how can you let your own website fall apart? Well, put it this way, how often do singers listen to their own songs?
Right.
Some do, they're really narcissistic. But like, you create your website and you will update it probably regularly, which is another thing, right? So,
or how often do I run into a client who hasn't updated their website in 5 years?
All the time.
And there's stuff broken on
Right.
it. And they're like, why am I not getting any leads? And it's like, well, your website doesn't work. Like, it's literally, I can't navigate it. So like you're solving, but we're doing this, we're trying to scale. Right? That's the thing. It's like, it's like once you get to the point where you're doing the work in your business, that's when this stuff becomes important. So the more of the stuff you can do ahead of time, the better off.
Yeah, and for me, I'm glad you brought the website on because I'm in the same boat with that. The website is this thing, it's a great example in this example. It is a form of inbound marketing, which watch our marketing video on inbound, outbound marketing. That was a great plug, thanks. But it's a form of inbound marketing, right? And once it's there, it kind of can live and it can be forgotten. Now there's a million things like that in your business that can just, because they're there and they don't scream out your name all the time, like, hey, look at me, they can be forgotten. So how do we not forget them? We not forget them, which is horrible English. We remember them with checklists.
Right.
So every month I pull that marketing checklist and it's all the things that over the years of being in business, I realize are really important and I got to make sure I touch on. And that came out 2 days ago for February for me. And I now put it front and center on my desk and I write February at the top and I just go down the list and I check them off. And sometimes it'll take me 4 or 5 days to complete it, but I know that I hit everything for that month that's important for me to kind of keep the business moving forward. And that ensures success. Now, the further benefit, so that's me doing it. Now let's look at growth related stuff. And that checklist becomes very important because now I can onboard someone. Now I could even hire a contractor, say for, I need to take this off my plate because we're growing and my focus needs to be here and not there. And I've now created a system whereby I can hand off that system and everything that needs to be done.
And the hardest thing is when you're scaling is to hand off that responsibility, is to delegate. That's the hardest thing because now you are actually giving up control over a process. Mm-hmm. But the best way to give up control over the process is for there to be a process that's written down.
Right.
That's not just nebulous, right? This is an actual process that we created. We know it works. I know it works because I've been doing it. So now this is the way to do it, right? And so when you hand it off, at least it's being done correctly. And if it's not written down, you can't really track that.
And I do it with client experience too, right? So, there'll be, and to say, I wish I could say that I knew exactly what to do every time the right way. It didn't form
It's
that
always
way.
probably going to be iterative, right? And
Very
it's
much
going to
so.
evolve, right?
Yes.
You're going to make mistakes and you're going to add to it, right? So there's nothing, even if it's written down, doesn't mean you can't do it again.
But when I had something I really loved, I wanted to make sure it happened every time. So then we look at my, new client checklist, right? So along that paradigm of new client, what do I do when they come on board, when we're just talking, when we maybe, sign the contract, and what am I going to offer them? I want to make sure every client gets the same experience. I utilize a checklist, right, to ensure. So blunt force fact number 1 for you today in ensuring success in your business is?
Put it on paper.
Put it on paper.
It can't just exist. It has to be.
And I want to
and
just
written
quote
out.
out like paper. Let's do paper and quotes. I like to write. I'm a pen and ink guy, but obviously everything I have is digital as well.
Right.
But I really do like pen and ink. So I keep, I'll keep a digital file and a paper file too. I like something in front of me. I like something I can touch. For me, notebook wise, I'm a pen and ink notebook guy where a lot of people use those really cool, like those notebooks that are electronic now.
Right, yeah,
They
yeah,
say
yeah.
all that stuff is awesome. Works for some people, doesn't
and then
work for me.
as you scale, you've got more people. Like let's say you weren't even at the business anymore. Like
Right.
you would need like maybe an operational handbook that's digital or something that people
Yep.
can look at while they're doing their process. So
Yeah.
obviously we're talking about iterative and
Yes.
long tail.
Yes. I tend
Starting
to. It's
off
funny.
here. Starting off here.
Even creating
What you do for yourself versus
Yes.
what you're doing for other people.
Yeah. So like those checklists are digital, but the way my mind works and what I like, I print them out, put them in a little folder, right? Like a little file folder. I like the paper stuff. It just always been something that's stuck.
And sometimes
with me.
you're
So
doing
I'm old
it.
school. Well, I'm
someti-
old.
Well, yeah. Sometimes you're
first
doing
off.
it for a client, like so they can track you, right? So it's like, here's my checklist. Here's what I've done.
Yes.
And if you don't have that, sometimes it doesn't serve you.
Yeah.
Because other people need to be able to track what you're doing too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Why did this not happen? There's no check in that box. You missed it. You skipped it. You didn't look at it that time.
It's a fantastic way to hold your employees accountable for your expectation as well. Fantastic. I mean, we had that in the sport complex we owned here. We broke everything on a daily, what needed to be done for the day was on a checklist. We did go electronic with that, obviously. It was a lot easier for my staff to manage, but they would initial. So you go, there was opening duties, daily duties, closing duties, and everything was on a digital checklist that was shared with them, and they'd put their initials next to it. So real easy, if I come in and that bathroom's not clean, and I go in the checklist and there's either nothing there, which is always a real problem, right, for us, because it allowed us to hold people to an expectation, or it was checked off, I knew who to call.
Right.
I wasn't calling 10 people that worked yesterday. I was calling the one person that said they did that. So it kind of also, checklists create accountability for your people. So awesome. Really, really good. So now we're going to dig a little deeper. Right, so now we have the basis of the checklist created, and we're going to go to our blunt force fact number 2 of the day, which I'm going to throw back to you again, Patrick, which is what?
The devil is in the details. That's blunt force fact number 2
Devil's in the details,
for
absolutely.
your checklist.
So
We're trying to make our day. We're trying to make the most of our day.
we're going to go way back now in the Wayback Machine. If you watch one of our original videos in our startup series, we talked a lot about knowing you're better. Knowing what makes your company, why you, right? Why should someone hire you? So as we're putting together these checklists, when we talk about the devil's in the details, how well does that checklist circle back to ensure that the quote unquote better is happening? We had a good conversation about this a couple minutes ago, and I love the couple examples we were kicking around. But let's take an example of what we mean by that, right? So if the goal of a specific project or a specific business is to have, let's say my business's goal is to, and our business is to always incorporate health and wellness, right, into what we're doing. Right. It's really important for Patrick and I that when we work with our clients,
We're clearly very healthy people.
we're very healthy and
Clearly,
well
yes. Yep.
in a physical state. The mental state somewhat up for debate, but
Somewhat physically, not quite.
yes,
but
we are
working on it.
fantastic for middle-aged
it's
men.
important.
We are fantastic for middle-aged. So, but health and wellness is obviously important to us. So one of the things that we do to incorporate that into our checklist for what we're doing is we ensure that when we are touching on a specific topic in a lot of the work we do with our clients, we also incorporate health and wellness. So I was talking to Patrick about blogs, right? And so on my checklist for marketing, I will have make sure I complete a blog. Now that would be that would get it on paper, but it wouldn't get to the detail that we're looking for, right? So what does my checklist actually say? Well, it says, make sure you complete your marketing blog and also make sure that you incorporate health and wellness into the blog for the month. So what I'm gonna do is I'm ensuring the thing that's important to our business is incorporated into the actual checklist item.
Right. Or like if I am a business and I decide, okay, I want to start doing social media, right? Because I do, and I've been involved in businesses that do this, right? And so your immediate thought is, I'm going to do it myself. I run out of time. Now I need to hand this off. I'm going to hand this off to a younger person who understands social media a lot better than me, right? And I'm going to say, okay, you're going to do our posting, right? And you start off with how many posts are we going to do? 3 Instagram posts a week.
Right.
Okay, great. And then what's in those posts? Well, we want to have a picture of the work that we're doing and something clever and whatever. And then okay, what else? Well, we need some hashtags. That helps the post grow and it helps the post distribute and reach beyond our audience and all that. What are the hashtags? Let's do the hashtags after the post, and then, or we can do them in the comment after the post. Which hashtags are we going to use? Well, we're going to use some hashtags related to our business. We can't just use the same ones over and over again because then we're not really experimenting. We're not reaching out and whatever. Okay, so which ones are we going to experiment with? Well, let's look at the analytics and let's see which hashtags are grabbing audiences, and maybe we piggyback on those a little bit more. Maybe we scrap these because they're not helping us out. So these are all little details, and they all come out from the planning. But if we just start off with post 3 or 4 days a week on behalf of the business, that's not really enough information for that person to take off and do on their own.
That would be a common instruction, though.
Right.
Right? Like that would be I mean, we've worked for companies as well through our professional
career. Why is
career.
nobody calling me from our social media?
Right.
Well, did you ever ask them to?
Yeah.
Well, one of the social media posts a week needs to have a call to action.
Right.
Call us and talk to us, or submit this form and talk to us. But that's a detail, right? And so that's super important. Part of the checklist is nailing down to where we're at. Like you talked about our better, right? So it's like we want to show that we are interested in, or what's our better is this process. Our process is way more detailed. It involves more people than this other guy who's doing the same business, but it's just him, right? So we want to maybe focus on team members. We want to focus on our community. Like those details are important for our better, right? So that's got to be in the checklist.
And 2 points to that I really like to kind of highlight. One is, this really became ingrained in me through my military time, because as frustrating at times as it was, when there's this thing that they use in military planning called the technical orders, right? They're very common, especially in the maintenance fields. And I was in the aircraft maintenance field for a little while. And the interesting thing about technical orders is, as an aircraft maintenance officer, I understood and I was kind of educated on the basic principles of flight and how planes worked and all that good stuff, right? What are the systems that, the electronic systems, the hydraulic systems, whatever it was, why a plane goes up and down, all that good stuff. But at the end of the day, I couldn't fly a plane and I couldn't fix a plane. That's not where my level of training was. Now these are really complex machines where there's a specific group that fixes just the electronics, right? Then there's another group that fixes the hydraulic systems. And then there's a sheet metal group that whatever. And they're all very specific. However, if I went out to a plane with any one of them, I always noticed they would go into the supply thing and they would ask for the technical order and they go out there with a book. And pilots do this all the time. And if you've ever watched pilots prep for flight, or especially pre 9/11 when those doors were open, you could see it all the time. But if you watch, they take out a book. Now, you could have a 20-year veteran pilot and he's taking out a book and the co-pilot's reading to him and he's doing something and he's saying, check, to turn flaps to whatever, check, right? Turn flaps down, check. That, I could sit in that seat and I could do it. Even though I have now granted, he'd probably be like, it's that button right there, but when we would fix things on a plane, it'd be the same way. Whereas I would be able to go out with them, and with that book, I could actually complete the act of replacing that component because it step by step took me through it, right? So really, I was able to kind of step away and look at my business and say, that's the way to run a business, because you're providing everyone with the exact fail-safe of how you want it done. Now, to the flip side of that, what some people think, and I strongly disagree with, is they think, well, if you're doing that, it's just like creating robots. Like, absolutely not, because at the end of the day, when we provide the left and right limit of what is a must for us in the detail, right? These are the must because this is what makes us better in that detail. Now, the rest is autonomy. The rest is make it yours, but do so within this construct. When we had our staff at the sport complex go do social media posting for us, the expectation was we laid out what the content was going to be, what would be in each post, and we had a training program that if you were going to post on social media, you had to have taken this class and sent me the little certificate, right? So I knew that they had a basis of how to put it together, but the rest is shoot whatever you want. There's a million things going on here. Do whatever you want, however you like, right? So the autonomy is in the ability, I've already told you what's really important to me. I don't care how you do the rest. The rest is up to you. And I think that can be very empowering too for employees. If you set really strong standard, the rest can then be empowered to them.
Especially, I feel like this is like a really big concept in the military. It's like discipline is what gives you structure, and discipline is what gives you freedom. You can't have freedom without the discipline and the structure, right? Because otherwise it's just chaos.
It's true. And
right?
people think, go ahead, finish,
well, no, I was
please.
just going to say, I had a ton of examples of that in the businesses I've worked with and some of the people I've worked with. Some of it could be like, you're working with an email marketer, right? And you're just saying, okay, look, I want you to write compelling subject lines because compelling subject lines draw people's attention, right? And you create these frameworks, right, and whatever. And then you're like, okay, now I don't have to review it anymore because now you've got the structure and you've got the knowledge and you've got your checklist. Now you've got a little bit more room to get a little bit more creative. Now what happens is, once they get a little bit more creative, sometimes they make mistakes.
Yeah.
Right? But the mistake is a learning. We're not in the military, right? So our mistakes are not life or death consequences, right? They could affect maybe a small part of our business, but that freedom to make that mistake.
Yeah.
And there will be fewer mistakes because you've got the structure down.
Right.
And I think the other example I brought up when you and I were talking before was like, if you're writing a good song, right, and somebody's got the opportunity to do a solo, whether it's a vocal solo or a guitar solo, that doesn't work unless the song is nailed down. Like, here are the notes of the song, here's the structure of the song, here are the words of the song. The solo doesn't work if it's divorced from the song. It works within that structure. It uses similar notes, right? It doesn't sound good. It sounds off, right? Mm-hmm. But it's the same thing in our business, right? We build the structure of the business. We build the structure of the checklist. Within that, there's going to be some freedom. And if you have the person with the right personality who takes over that checklist, then they're going to really, really excel with it. And the other process I brought up is once they had that process down, I started giving them freedom because I trusted them because the process was so airtight. We had those limits set. So we know that whatever mistake they made, it was not going to go without the realm, over the top. If they made a mistake, it was going to be within our limits that we set. It also improved their workflow. So they were able to work faster because they're not waiting on us. They're not waiting on other people. They just know if I go through this checklist, I don't have to go back to Patrick. I can just do my thing, right? And so that improved their workflow. They could do more, and they had more enjoyment of their role as well.
I love that example. So, to bring that full circle, as a business owner, create the structure of the song. I love musical references, by the way. Create the structure of the song, and then allow your employees to kind of lay their solo on it, right?
We have to move on to blunt force fact number 3, though.
But that was a good one.
Yeah, that was a good one.
Cool. Yeah. All right, what's blunt force fact number 3, Patrick?
Blunt force fact number 3 is rinse, wash, and repeat.
And then review.
And review.
Yeah. Rinse, wash, repeat, but then review. So what we mean there is pretty straightforward with that fact. It's now that you have created these wonderful checklists and you've added your better into them, the detail's good, you now have a system. How do we ensure that we repeat that system? It's really, this one's easy. And to me, it's all about calendar scheduling. Schedule in the times that you want to make sure you're hitting this, so it gets hit every month. So you created the systems. Now, if we're doing marketing, the full marketing checklist once a month, well, then it's on my calendar for whatever, the first of every month. It's a ping that comes up and says, pull out your marketing checklist. If we need to do, if the system's a weekly system, great. Then it's a ping once a week that says, pull out the checklist and go through the checklist. If it's a daily system like we had in our sport complex, well, guess what? When this first thing the staff came in, they got a ping when they came in, said, go into the daily checklist and see what we have for work for the day, right? So there's setting the reminders to kind of get into the system of doing it over and over and over again. And then as always, so rinse, wash, repeat, but then most importantly, set that reminder to also step out and review.
Right, that's a big problem for a lot of owners and people, especially in a smaller business where you're wearing a lot of hats or you're really, really busy. You never sit back to review. And that's how you can get caught up in a bad process where it's just the process isn't working. We'll talk about this in a future video, I'm sure, where we're talking about continuous improvement. But it's really easy it's really difficult. It's really easy for a bad process to take over.
Yes.
If you don't, you can do because you do all this work.
Yes.
And you're very sure about it, and then you just get busy.
Right.
So you've missed the part that this part of the process isn't working because you're just in it.
Yeah.
You're in it so much that you just don't have time, right? And you forget. So you got to sit back and you've got to review, and you've got to look at the processes, and you've got to say, like, why am I not getting the results I want, or why am I not growing at the rate I want to grow, and why are the same mistakes being made over and over and over again? We have to review the checklist. We got to look at it, and we have to make amendments, and we have to make sure it's iterative and evolutionary, and it's not just. That's why it's written on paper, because you can take the paper and you can rip it up.
Yeah, well, you're already ahead of the game, and you're already ahead of the competition by putting the process in place. You've already taken one step that's going to put you hands down ahead of 90% of the small businesses out there that aren't doing that stuff, right? So then that last little better, right? That next level shit is to make sure you once a month, once every other month, you take time to step away. And like you mentioned, touch on the stop, start, continue exercise, but that's for a future video. So let's wrap this up. So
all right, recap. Blunt force facts. Making the most of our day. We've got our 3 blunt force facts. We've got put it on paper. The devil is in the details. Rinse, wash, repeat, and review.
Awesome job. I'm Brian LaFauci.
Patrick Marino.
Check out more of our videos at bluntforcebusiness.com.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching. We hope you liked the video, and we hope now you can make more of your day using our Blunt Force Facts. So if you like what you listen to, drop us a like, leave us a comment, and of course, subscribe to our channel. We'll be back next week with another Blunt Force Fact video.